The sights and sounds of a coffee shop may be recognizable and welcomed background noise to those that frequent the Charlottesville coffee shops. However, there's a much longer and more complicated process to getting you that cup of local coffee than you might imagine. For Dave Fafara, the love affair with coffee began 15 years ago when he bought Shenandoah Joe and entered the coffee roasting business. The journey of coffee begins with the fundamental idea that Dave prioritizes, a relationship with the coffee farmers. Dave's work isn't limited to Charlottesville. He travels to the coffee farms to form a relationship with the growers before the harvest has even begun. His coffee beans come from a variety of places, including but not limited to countries like Guatemala, Colombia, Costa Rica, or Mexico. A continuous bond between Dave and the farmers from year to year is essential to his coffee bean selection process. After the coffee is harvested, it's sent to a mill, usually local to the farmer, to be ready for shipment to the U.S. From there, Dave attends coffee conferences where he talks with the farmers, learns about this year's harvest, and samples or cups the coffee. An example of one was in Seattle most recently. He then returns to Shenandoah Joe in Charlottesville to focus on the business decisions and price negotiations. Having asked for samples to be sent, he will try out all of the possibilities in the sample roaster. At this point, he can make the purchase decisions. Each harvest of coffee beans brings different roasts with their own unique flavors. Dave's job is to bring out the unique characteristics of each coffee bean. This is when the roasting process begins. First, Dave has to accurately measure how many beans can fit into the roaster. You may not recognize them because they look like this at first. Shenandoah Joe uses a San Franciscan machine meant for artisan roasting of coffee beans. Dave prefers to tailor the time and heat in the roaster to the individual beans. Some experts in the United States roast each type of bean for the same temperature and length of time, but Dave says that this loses some of the special characteristics for each roast of coffee. Once the beans are ready, they come out of the roaster to be cooled by the air underneath the roaster. While the beans are being stirred, Dave checks the temperature by hand to see when they're ready. He also searches the beans for irregularities. An example are beans that were stuck in the roaster twice and are too charred for coffee making. What's left over is the coffee chaff, which is given to customers to use in their gardens. From here, the coffee beans are bagged and sorted according to the purchase order. Many of the local Charlottesville restaurants buy their coffee from Shenandoah Joe, and they also sell to Whole Foods, Harris Teeter, Rebecca's, and Kroger. One of the main takeaways from Shenandoah Joe is the authenticity of the coffee. Fair trade and organic coffee are available, but Dave doesn't subscribe to labels alone. He explained that some farmers have organic and very sustainable operations, but they don't necessarily have the time, infrastructure, or money to obtain these labels. For Dave, it's mostly about the quality that keeps customers coming back. As Dave commented, "It's not a job, it's an art, and all I am is the process. And this art brings you your cup of Joe."